Hello everybody, welcome back to Talking Wolves. It is an away trip this week to St James's Park to take on Newcastle United. Welcome to the match preview. Hope you guys are keeping well and safe, and as always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below ahead of this game. Wolves picking up a fantastic victory over Spurs. It's another tough game coming up though this weekend, but another 3 points or getting something out of this game will be massive for Wolves. Before we kick off though, guys, we have released our brand new t-shirts on talkingwolves.co.uk. It's the Jeffrey Shee went to Spain in a Lamborghini t-shirt. So you can go and grab one of those using a link in the description down below. I promise I wasn't about to sing the whole chant to you guys, but another tough game coming up for Wolves, but another challenge I'm sure Lopetegui will be looking forward to, especially after the win against Tottenham last weekend. Again, a game of two halves for Wolves. Really slow in the first half, but the second half, Lopetegui made changes. Wolves looked a hell of a lot better. Some players given an opportunity and taking the opportunity on Saturday, and that gives me real confidence going into this game on Sunday at Newcastle. Now, I'm recording this on Thursday evening, so we've not had the Lopetegui press conference as of yet. Of course, if there's any major news or difference in what I say today, I'll obviously let you guys know in the comment section or on the Talking Wolves socials. Probably the main one is going to be Diego Costa, unfortunately looking like a major injury for him, which he picked up in the first half against Tottenham on Saturday. I'm sure Lopetegui will give us some more information on that, but as of right now, I'm not too sure about the severity of that injury. We may not, maybe I'm talking too soon, but we may not see Costa in a Wolves shirt again, depending on how serious that is. Neto obviously got his first start back from a fairly long-term injury, so it was great to see him start. Obviously not quite as sharp as we want him, but it's crucial that he was getting at least 45 minutes on Saturday. We also could see Boubacar Traore and Hwang Hee-chan. Boubacar Traore was due back fairly soonish, but he had another little setback. Hwang as well should be back very, very soon. He, of course, started off really brightly in that big win against Liverpool. If they don't feature and they're close, we may well again see them get some sort of minutes for the 21s next week, as we saw with Pedro Neto. But I'm sure we'll see those boys back. And it'll give, bar sort of Costa, Chiquinho and Kalajdzic, it'll give Lopetegui a massive squad to look at and a really healthy selection headache, I suppose, going into these games. Newcastle United, of course, have had a phenomenal season. Only lost a handful of games, only 3 games, in fact, in the league. But since the World Cup, haven't quite been the team that we saw in the first part of the season. Struggling to see games off, struggling to get victories. And I'm hoping that the defeat in the Carabao Cup final a few weeks ago, they're still trying to recover from it. They've played some tough teams. They've had a really tough run of games. So I think they will be up for this one. And they'll now look at, between this weekend and the end of the season, putting all their focus in trying to stay in the hunt for European football. So it is going to be a really tricky game for Wolves, because obviously Newcastle have some quality players. One of the big players though that is missing for Newcastle is Joe Linton. He's suspended due to having too many yellow cards. Another player in a similar situation right now is Ruben Neves. If he picks up one more yellow card, he'll have a 2-game suspension. Wolves fans will be hoping that it's not this weekend, seeing as we play Leeds and Forest in our 2 following that. So you'd want Neves ideally to be part of both of those games, but at least one of them. So hopefully we see Neves avoid a booking this weekend. Now let's jump into my predicted lineup for the game. As you can see here, I think it could change. Lopetegui could surprise us, but I've gone with Jose Sarr in goal, a back 4 of Johnny, who I thought was fantastic against Spurs, to keep his place, alongside Kilman, Dawson and Semedo. Collins, I thought, did well as well. I'd be surprised to see us go with a back 5, but I suppose you can never say never. Midfield three, I think he'll stick with Lamina, Neves and Nunez. And a front three, I would expect Cunha to come back in. I think Sarabia will keep his place. And I think Jimenez has got to keep his place as well after a fantastic performance against Tottenham. But there's players in there, like I've already mentioned. You could say Aït-Nouri, you could say Collins, you could say Martinho, who had a decent cameo against Spurs. You could obviously say Adama Traore as well. Neto do give another opportunity to. You know, I do not envy Lopetegui whatsoever, but I suppose during the week, he's the main man. He's the one that sees them day in, day out, and he's the one that's going to make those decisions. But do let me know your thoughts, guys, in the comment section down below. And of course, we've got the BetMate game as well. Now, this game is capped at 100 people. So when I check, there is still space to join it right now, but I suppose you'll have to be quite quick. I've won quite a bit of money over the last few weeks on the BetMate, thankfully. It's just a Wolves versus Newcastle game, so you only have to select players from this matchup. I've gone heavy Wolves. We all did, to be fair, on the podcast. We all went heavy Wolves. So I've gone with Sarr in goal, Semedo and Dawson at the back, Neves and Bruno Guimaraes in the middle, and Sarabia and Jimenez up front. So be sure to go and check that out. A link is in the top of the description. Use TW10 if you haven't already joined BetMate to get a £10 bonus. You must be 18 plus, a UK resident, and please do gamble aware. Now, this week I spoke to Keg from the Magpie channel. Of course, he's a Newcastle United fan who gave us his thoughts so far. I think he is cautious about going into this game, but quietly confident as well, because Newcastle know that they need to start getting some points on the board. But here were his thoughts ahead of the game. So, Keg, thank you for jumping on Talking Wolves again. Newcastle Wolves. Interesting season for Newcastle. It's been a crazy year for you guys. Carabao Cup finalists, unfortunate in the final. Still played quite well. But in the Premier League as well, mate, doing fantastically well. Just lost 3 games in the league all season, which is a fantastic record. Interesting one though. You haven't. I think you've only picked up 1 win in the Premier League since the new year, but it has been. You've had some difficult fixtures in there. What's the mood like? You sat in 6th place. You've got a couple of games in hand. What's the mood like with the fans, and how do you think your season's gone so far?
Well, it's a bit topsy-turvy at the minute, really, because like you say, the season's been great. Like, our record's great, so there's no complaints really. But that there is a section of the fan base that just really isn't happy at the minute, because since the turn of the World Cup, since coming back on Boxing Day, we won Boxing Day, smashed Leicester out the water 3-0, went on the cup run, beat Leicester and Southampton in the quarter and semi-final of the Carabao Cups. But other than that, it's been quite poor. We've only had 1 win since Boxing Day in the league. That was against Fulham. Started conceding some goals. Like, our record was impeccable before the World Cup break, and even afterwards, to be fair, we kept clean sheets at Leicester, Leeds, Arsenal, Fulham, Palace. But they've started to come through now, and including that Carabao Cup defeat, where we've lost 3 games in a row. Like, prior to that, we'd only lost 2 games all season, one being Liverpool in the league and the other Sheffield Wednesday in the cup. So, and now we've lost 3 on the bounce in all competitions. But I think we are being a little bit too harsh on myself, because them 3 defeats have been Liverpool, Man City, and Man United. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really get much of a harder run-in. So, yeah, I think there's a section of fans that just aren't happy. I think particularly with squad rotation. I think it has been a bit of a long season for her. And I think the shallowness of the squad's starting to be shown now. Like, we have spent a bit of money on paper. We have got a brilliant team, but the bottom end of the squad, there's still a lot of work to be done. Obviously, people know Newcastle in the media for having the owners that we have. We're the richest team in the world. People think that we're going to be spending like Chelsea money, going out and spending 800 million in a January transfer window. Like, it's just not realistic. But we are on trajectory for European football. Whether that'll be top 4 in Champions League, I don't know, but likelihood we will at least get Europa League. But our team just isn't strong enough to compete in the top 6 in the Europa League, get domestic cup finals. Like, we're still a long way off that. So this season really has surpassed expectations, even where we are now. If you offered me at the beginning of the season 6th place in the league and a Carabao Cup final, I'd have absolutely snapped your hand off. So we shouldn't be here yet. Like, this is like 2 years down the line. Like, it should be a longer term project than where we are now. So yeah, I haven't been happy with many results. Like I say, Fulham was our last win. I don't even know when that was, nearly like 2 months ago now. Like we've drawn with Bournemouth in that time, lost three at the last, lost by three games. So we just need to come back. And unfortunately for you guys, we're targeting you. We're coming for the Wolves. We're hunting down the pack. We need some points on the board because we're just not really happy at the minute. Like it's been 3 points has been a long term. So.
Yeah, I mean, for you guys, obviously, you've still got a couple of games in hand. Liverpool have just gone ahead of you in the league.
Exactly.
But you've got a game in hand of those. A couple of games in hand on Spurs. I think this season for you guys, it's probably almost, you're a very reputable club. Just to almost try and make players and other fans, maybe in and outside of England, to say, look, Newcastle are back now. Newcastle are here. Make a little bit of noise, which I think you've done to a massive level. And I think you're right. If you can hold on and get Europe by the end of this season, which you're in a fantastic position to do so, I think you'll be all right. Obviously, Eddie Howe's come in. He surprised me with how well he's done, to be honest. I think I've said that to you before. What do you think he changed at the club? Do you think he was just quite fortunate because there was a real buzz coming to the club all at the same time? What has he changed from the last few regimes at Newcastle? Why is he doing so well?
Yeah, I don't really think it's necessarily the buzz. I think he's just a guy with a plan. Like obviously the last regime under Steve Bruce and Mike Ashley, it couldn't be farther different. Like Steve Bruce just didn't have a plan, didn't have a clue, didn't do tactics, didn't get the best out of the players. But Eddie Howe does, and I think he's a guy that actually cares and wants to win, unlike Steve Bruce. Like when Eddie Howe first came in, everyone was thinking, particularly for the ones that got a little bit of a lazy reputation under him, like pointing fingers at John Joe Shelby. He was one player that we didn't get the best out of. Under Rafa Benitez was brilliant. Under Steve Bruce, abysmal. But I just think with the rest of the team, like morale and the mentality just all kind of went out the window. So when Eddie Howe's first training session came out and the club like released like images and videos and stuff, and Eddie Howe's getting right stuck into the training session, like sprint and get like shouting at the players and stuff, everyone thought people like John Joe Shelby's going to die here because they're not used to this level of intensity. Like lazy players are going to struggle. But even John Joe Shelby came out and said, like, we'll love it. Like, we need this. Like, some players want to be coached. And that's the difference. Exactly. He's been coaching players and he's got like a personal relationship with each and every single one of them. Players like, they turn like Joe Linton on from a £40 million flop striker to a box-to-box dominant centre midfielder. Like he's just been getting the best out of players. Like Fabian Schär's another one who's been one of the best centre backs in the Premier League this season. Fantastic under Rafa, abysmal under Steve Bruce. Like literally, I would have walked John Joe Shelby and Fabian Schär to their next club just to get them out of the door because I hated them under Steve Bruce. But like Eddie Howe's just turned everything around. Like got the fans on side, the owners love him, the players love him. So the players are playing for him, and the fans are back in the stadiums now after a little bit of a protest to get Mike Ashley out of the club. So yeah, everything's just on the up, like with the owners, with the management, with the coaching staff, with the players. A couple more transfer windows under our belt, and we'll be well on my way to fighting for the top four.
Yeah. What do you think? What are the aims for the rest of the season? Then, obviously, unfortunately, in the Carabao Cup, are you guys still in the FA Cup at the minute? Or you not?
No, I got put out in the third round. Wednesday.
So all focus now for you guys on the league. 14 games to go for you guys. What's the aim? Just to make sure you get into European football.
Yeah, pretty much just kind of get back to the pre-World Cup form. Because, like I say, just a few weeks ago, we were third place in the league. And now we've dropped down to, I think it's like 7th on goal difference. Or I was still in sixth, I think it is. Yeah, we're still in sixth. Yeah, like you said, we've got a couple of games in hand. So Fulham around with Liverpool, Tottenham. We've got a couple of games in hand. So we just need to kind of get this out of the way. As soon as we won that semi-final second leg, Eddie Howe said that we're not going to get focused on the Carabao Cup final. Like that's in the future. That's a few weeks away. We're not even focused on that yet. We're going to take things game by game, as he's always said. But he did come out after the Carabao Cup final and say, we did kind of let it get to our heads a little bit. Like we did kind of have one eye on that when really we should have been taking like Crystal Palace, like West Ham, like Bournemouth, games that we drew and shouldn't have. Like there was distractions and that was unfortunate. Like I say, with lack of squad depth, Bruno Guimaraes got a red card against Southampton, so he missed the 3 games prior to the Carabao Cup final. Joe Linton's now going to be out for the next 2 games after picking up 10 yellow cards. So yeah, the focus now is Carabao Cup finals behind us. We're disappointed that we didn't lift the trophy. We're disappointed that we've lost 3 games off the bounce now. So we just need to come back. We need all our players to start hitting some form. Like Callum Wilson, for example, only got 1 goal since October, I think it is. Like people like him and Kieran Trippier since the World Cup. I think like Callum Wilson gave everything to get into that World Cup squad, potentially Trippier and all. And I think their form, like it's almost blasphemy to criticize Kieran Trippier because he's so loved up here. Like we absolutely love him and Bruno. Like we're so appreciative of them because they were the first 2, Trippier especially, to take the plunge after the takeover. Like last year in January, we were in the bottom 3. And Kieran Trippier left Champions League football, Atletico Madrid, to come to us, and Bruno left a decent position at Lyon to come to us. So we just need them to get back on form and just start picking up some wins again, get our defence and Nick Pope's clean sheets back in form. So, like I say, wherever we finish, I don't really care. Like I said at the beginning of the season, anything within the top 6 is an absolute bonus. So if we can push on, try and fight back for that top 4 spot, 3rd and 4th, amazing. But realistically, where we are now, 5th and 6th, that's okay. Get Europa League football. I'm just not ready for the Champions League. Yes, like I actually worry about getting to the Champions League. Like I say, because of our squad depth, like we'll be blown out of the water in the Champions League. So like I say, that's a future plan. Like it wasn't meant to be this year. So if we do fall short of top 4, that's okay. A lot of Newcastle fans will say it's not good enough because we've been averaging 3rd, 4th place all season, and now we're kind of dropping out of even like the top 6. So yeah, just keep that momentum going, get some more points on the board, get the defence rock solid as it was, get people like Callum Wilson back on the score sheet, and we'll be in the top 6, no problem.
Yeah, I think just take it step by step. I think, obviously we were in the Europa League just over 3 years ago, and it was like just a phenomenal experience. Obviously, we only managed to have it for a year, and before you was cut short due to COVID as well. But it's obviously a fantastic experience. So, it'd be great if you guys can get there. I know you're talking about sort of players coming in and out of form. Is there anyone that over the last few weeks you thought has looked really good? Maybe some players that Wolves need to look out for on Sunday?
Over the last few weeks, honestly, not really. Like I said, I think everyone's kind of had one eye on that Carabao Cup final, so I think everyone's heads kind of went. I think the one player, I think Bruno's always our target man. Like you've always got to look out for Bruno. But we've had a few conversations about this over the last couple of weeks, and we would love to see Isak get a run in the team. I think there's just been a little bit of fitness issues there. Like he came off a bit of a long-term injury before the World Cup. Got injured at the beginning of the season, came back, but just in fits and spurts after the World Cup. I don't even think he's started a game yet since the World Cup. Not in the Premier League anyway. But when he's come on, he's looked really, really sharp. He's been doing what Callum Wilson hasn't been. Like Callum Wilson's been completely anonymous. But Isak, he's a big lad. He's like 6'3", 6'4", long, skinny dude. Really good pace, really good on the ball, an eye for goal. Just everything that Callum Wilson hasn't been offering us for the last few weeks. So if Isak gets the nod and gets the start ahead of us, then keep an eye out for him because he's very dangerous.
Yeah, one player that always intrigues me as well is Maximin, and I know he's probably to Newcastle fans what Adama Traore is to us.
Exactly.
He gets you off your seats, really excited, but just didn't give you enough goal contributions. Is that pretty much the case with Maximin?
Spot on. Yeah, that's been how he's been since we signed him. Is this his 4th season, I think, being with us? Like end product just hasn't been there. Like, especially prior, like in like the Steve Bruce era, we didn't really have a lot to get off our seats, to be honest. So him driving at the fullbacks with his pace and energy and skills and stuff, like it got us off our seats. But what he done with the ball afterwards was anyone's guess. I don't think he knew half the time. So that's just something that he's needed to work on. I think last season was his best return in terms of goals and assists, but even then, it's not really the production that he should be delivering. This season's been a little bit difficult for him. He's had a couple of injuries himself. And then he even ended up finding himself out of the team for a while. Like you had to fight to get back into the team. I think a couple of like injuries and suspensions has helped him get back into the team. And to be fair, I will give him his props. So like I said, someone who's shone over the last few weeks, he probably has been the guy. Like he's been kind of getting back to driving at fullbacks, looking exciting. Still hasn't done nothing with it, but he's kind of looked like the Sir Maximin of old. Because I think if there's one player that I would pinpoint to say has regressed under Eddie Howe, it's probably Sir Maximin. Like he's probably been the one player who, like under Steve Bruce, like I say, he was the key guy. Everything came through him. But I think Eddie Howe's lifted everybody else, and he's been the one player that hasn't really kind of took that next step under Eddie Howe. But I think everything that he has to offer, if you get him on the ball, like the Man City game at the beginning of the season where we drew 3-3, that was his best performance in a Newcastle shirt by far. So we know he's still got a lot to offer in the tank. Like we just need to get it out of him. So I think a front three of Sir Maximin on the left, Isak up top, and then pick on the right of either Miguel Almiron or Anthony Gordon. It's a very dangerous front three if they're firing. If all three of them come out on that day, anybody's in trouble against them.
Yeah, I think that's the issue. I mean, we have it a lot with players, Adama especially, where it's frustrating because there's such a talented footballer in there, but you just you see it too inconsistently. So it is frustrating at times. On the flip side, Keg, from the Wolves squad, is there anyone going into Sunday's game that worries you? Anyone that you think may cause Newcastle some problems?
I think the one guy who it's probably always been the pinpoint guy, I think outside of like Adama Traore and Raul Jimenez, I think your dangerous player for the last few seasons, but this season especially, has been Ruben Neves. I think he's been sensational this season. I think he's been your standout guy. I think he's leading goals and assists this season. He's just dangerous. Like he's got like kind of leading that captain's way now. He's had the captain's armband this season. Like he kind of represents you as well as a club, and I think he fights for the badge and the club and the fans. So he's the kind of player that you always want on your side. He's someone who's been linked away with the club for the last probably 3 years because he's that good. Like any top 4 team, even like top teams across Europe, they want him, and it's understandable why. I think you forget how young he is and all, because I think he looks a bit older, and it seems like he's been in the Premier League for a good number of years now, but he's still got a young age. So yeah, he's your danger man. So yeah, anytime he's in the team, like you've always got to look up for him.
Yeah, you're right. He's been fantastic this season. Fortunately as well, I mean, again, we've not seen enough of it, but Jimenez had a really good game in Spurs, probably his best game last weekend post-injury. So fingers crossed we're starting to see the Jimenez of old. And even Adama had a good game, so we are seeing vintage Wolves come back. So fingers crossed we can see that again on Sunday. But Keg, to finish off, can you give us a score prediction for the game?
Well, Dave, we've been linking up for the last couple of years now doing these predictions, and one thing that we'll always say is this game's typically tight as anything. Normally pretty boring, to be fair, but I think 1-1's the typical scoreline. It was at the Molineux earlier this season. I think last season we divide it. I think we won 1-0 at St James's. Did you beat us? Yeah, you beat us 2-1 at your place.
Yeah, that was right. I think that was the last game before the takeover. That was as well.
I think it was. Yeah, you're right. But yeah, we need this. We need to bounce back strong. Yous are in 13th place, I think it is. So I think, hopefully, I think we've got home advantage, which always pays us well. We haven't lost a single game at home all season. So, and especially off the back of a few poor results, I think. Unfortunately for you guys, I think you will kind of our revenge and our dismay at losing that Carabao Cup final is going to be taken out on you. I do see. I think it's going to be tight. Like there's only ever been one goal between it. Whoever's took the 3 points between us since 2018 or whatever, there's only ever been one goal in it. So yeah, I think it's going to be tight. But I do see a win for Newcastle. I'll go with a probably 2-1.
Yeah, always a safe bet, the 2-1. But yeah, you're right. They're very close games between us. I think before last season, it always ended up being a 1-1 draw. Very, very close games. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Keg, before we finish off, where can everyone watching catch you and the Magpie channel, guys?
Yeah, follow us on YouTube at the Magpie Channel TV, across all social media platforms as well. On Instagram, we are at the Magpie Channel, and on Twitter, we are at Magpie Channel _.
Yeah, no problem. I'll make sure I leave a link to those. And after Sunday, Keg, all the best for the rest of the season. Fingers crossed Newcastle can get Europe. But yeah, hopefully I'll catch you next season.
Yeah, you too, mate. Yeah, fingers crossed for the rest of your season. I'm sure you will be absolutely fine. So yeah, don't worry about that. And yeah, fingers crossed for us as well.
Thank you, mate. Cheers. So big thanks once again to Keg. I'll make sure I leave a link to the Magpie channel in the description down below. But do let me know your thoughts, guys. I think you would be very safe to say a 1-1 draw, seeing as most of our games against Newcastle United tend to, end 1-1. But I think it'll be a tight game, probably a goal either side. I'd love a 1-0 or 2-1 Wolves. They don't concede many goals, Newcastle. But nicking a 1-0 win away at St James's Park would be fantastic. It put Wolves in a fantastic position going into some really, really crucial fixtures in the league. As always, guys, be sure to hit the like button down below. Subscribe to the channel. Be sure to check out the BetMate game and the brand new Talking Wolves t-shirts. Both of those linked in the description down below. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys. Stay safe, and I'll see you very, very soon.